Today, on Be Something Wonderful, manifest it by making linear time and changing conditions irrelevant. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. Powerful video today. I heard from a client that I haven't talked to for months now. I'm going to talk about her story and how she really bent time and conditions, bent 3D reality, bent reality to manifest what she wants. And I'm also going to talk about a question that a subscriber had on the channel about kids believing in the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. And his question was, if they believe in that, if they assume that, and assumptions and beliefs create reality, how come they don't manifest it in 3D reality? And we're going to really move you on this because I've got an answer for that. But I want to start with this because this is really cool. This is what this lesson's about today, right? For this client, so I talked with her some months ago now. And during that time, she was facing time and conditions that seemed insurmountable, right? She had an ex-SP that she was still very much in love with, an ex-boyfriend that she was still very much in love with. They had plans to get married and all that, but they had difficulties. So they were just going to take a break for a few months, both of them, in sort of a mutual agreement. He wanted it a little bit more than her, but she got it. But those few months turned into a year, nearly a year, about the time we started talking. And she talked about the conditions, right? She said, he even hooked up with an old love during that break. This is what she's hearing, all of these other conditions happening. And they got pregnant. And so now, not only has a time gone by, this old flame is said one that he used to talk about that he was really in love with at one time. So it would be, he was really in love with her, but if there were two people in his life that he was in love with, it was her and this other one. And he hooked up with that other one while on a break. Even though he didn't feel the same way he did back when he was first with this woman, he did hook up. And so they were going to plan, he said, I think we're going to get married and all of this. This is what all went on. She goes, Tom, I don't know where to begin. Well, here's the thing. She was buried in all of those conditions. And I'm saying none of those conditions. You can't do anything with those conditions. You can't do anything with the time that's gone by. You can't do anything about what you're saying that she's pregnant with a baby. And she's going, well, even if they break up, there's still going to be a baby. She was worrying about all of this. I said, what do you do? Where do you begin? Because that's what she said. I don't know. She goes, I remember what you said. It really stuck with me. Begin at the end and stay there. I've said this in many videos now, but she said, that's what I said to her, right? Because she was trying to get there through imaginal scenes, but she was not staying in the end. She was trying to think about all the things that had to happen to have what she wants. I just go to that end, right? Imagine that scene, assume that assumption that you two are together, period. Just you two happy. Forget about everything else. Forget about that other girl. Forget about the baby. Forget about the time that's gone by. That's what she did. And now she's saying, Tom, it totally bent time and conditions, right? Now, turns out that he called off the engagement with this other woman. And the reason he broke it off is because this other woman he was dating hooked up while they were dating. And the baby is not his. Hear this, it gives me tingles. Because this is all the stuff she was worried about, right? But remember, you bend reality. These circumstances came out of her. They broke it off because that baby's not even his. But she said, this old girlfriend that they were very madly in love with when they had first met years ago, that she still loves him and wants to marry him. Not that this other guy didn't mean anything and it was just a hookup. Well, he just didn't want it. Didn't want any more of it. And now they're back talking again. And she says they've been seeing each other a little bit. They're taking it slow, but they're getting back together. Wow. What happened here? What went on? Well, when all these other conditions started mounting one over another, because she kept worrying about the time that went by, what could happen. Maybe that he would meet someone else. And all of those things played out. But as soon as she went to the end and stayed there, went to her end imaginal scene, she bent conditions, she bent reality. That's powerful. I want to hit that and more today. Remember, you can make linear time and conditions irrelevant by going to your imagined end. Begin and end at the end and stay there. You begin and end at the end. Begin at the end and stay there, right? By beginning at the end and staying there no matter what, right? I am that I am. I am who I say I am. I am who I imagine myself to be. I am who I assume myself to be. Be that person. Be that identity. Forget about all of the factors that seem insurmountable in 3D, right? And how much time's gone by. A year or a year and a half, or how long has gone by, right? I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and last. Jesus gave us the manifesting secret to living in the end. Begin at the end and end in the end. Begin and end in the end. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am that person in that manifested reality. That is mine now. I declare it, I assume it, and I'm in it. I'm the beginning and the end. I'm the first and last. I'm the Alpha and Omega. That's pretty strong today. That's pretty powerful. Remember, changing forms and conditions. In other words, the experience of a linear time, because that's what changing forms and conditions are. They're just an experience in linear time. Do you see it? That's time. Time is change. That's what time is. Time doesn't exist, but how do we experience change in the changeless reality? By it unfolding in linear time, right? So they become irrelevant because you've already chosen or identifying with and as the version of you for whom and through whom your desired reality is real. Those forms, that time becomes irrelevant because you have already gone to the end. You're identifying with and as that version of you for whom and through whom your desired reality is real. And you're staying there. It's your identity now. There's nowhere to go. It doesn't make sense to judge and look out at the conditions. You're that identity. Those conditions must rearrange themselves around that identity. Remember, just because you don't perceive or see something physically manifested doesn't mean it's not real. Just because you can't see it manifested, and even worse, that you see opposites or contrasting events, doesn't mean something that physical doesn't mean it's not real. Doesn't mean it's not unfolding in that metaphysical realm, right? This also has to do with the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. That's why I wrote this here. Right? In other words, a real experience of reality. Just because you don't see it or perceive it, something physically manifested, something right in front of your eyes, doesn't mean it's not real. In other words, it doesn't mean it's not a real experience of reality. So her, as that identity, going to the end, right, beginning at the end and staying in that end, created a real experience of reality, created that metaphysical reality. Just because it hasn't manifested yet, or you don't see it, doesn't mean it's not real. That's powerful because this ties in with that question on the Easter Bunny. Right? Remember, the absolute isness of reality, the Father, the law, or the Lord of Scripture, the one life, that existence, and then the first manifestation, the beingness, consciousness, the awareness, the I am awareness, the Son of God, is the one changeless reality. I and the Father are one, but the Father is greater than I. Right? That beingness is born out of the isness of the Father, of that changeless reality. And it's within this beingness, within this I am awareness, that you get to experience infinite forms or manifestations. But that awareness and the Father are never changed. Everything else is just a temporary changing form, manifestation, or experience within that pure awareness, within that beingness of reality. In other words, it's change within the changeless reality. So the question which came up from this other subscriber, asking what's real and what's unreal, the question never is about what's real and what's unreal. It's all real. It's all a real experience within the one changeless reality. So it's really not a question about what's real or unreal. It's all real. But the manifestations and the forms are not what they seem. They're temporary. They're not reality. They're a real experience, a real form, a real manifestation of that ultimate reality, but they're not reality. They're not ultimately real, because the only thing that's real is your imagination, that beingness, that ultimate reality. But they're a real experience of reality. So asking this doesn't make any sense. We're not talking about unreal. Everything is reality, but not everything is manifested or seen or takes a form. Not everything takes a form. Okay, so let's hit this. I'm going to walk you through this. Remember, there's only one God, unity, one love, one life, one fulfillment, awareness, consciousness, and within which infinite forms of manifestations and experiences take place. You've got God, that unity, that one life, that fulfillment, that awareness. It's only fulfillment, right? Non-fulfillment is a manifestation. It's a temporary form. It's a thought. It's an assumption, right? Within the infinite forms of manifestation. So, but none of the changes that changeless reality, your true nature is I am awareness. None of those changing forms changes God, changes the unity, changes life, changes fulfillment, changes awareness, changes consciousness. None of it does. You have the free will to choose who and what you are aware of. In other words, your identity and your self-concept through your thoughts, assumptions, and beliefs in that changeless reality. In other words, that's how you determine your experience of that changeless reality. Who and what you're identifying as. Through your assumptions and beliefs. Through your thoughts, assumptions, and beliefs. So let's hit this a little bit more. Remember, and this was really what this client that I reconnected with really did brilliantly. She persisted. She persisted in her imagined end. She persisted in her frame, even though at times there was a lot of doubt, right? And she created a lot of other conditions in her perception, or she was perceiving a lot of other obstacles before she really began and ended in the end. Really began and sat in that end of that magical frame. Persisting in your imagined end or frame in new identity is not about efforting to imagine and affirm it. And that's what she was doing. She was tolerating the current reality, trying to get what she wants. It's not about efforting to imagine, affirm it, and tolerating the current conditions or the 3D appearances until it manifests. But rather, it's making a firm decision from that place of truth, from that place of conviction within, that I am who I assume myself to be. I am who I imagine myself to be. And then staying there. That's what she finally did, right? If she no longer was trying to imagine while tolerating conditions, no longer trying to imagine, trying to manifest through them, she decided, this is who I am. I'm going to come from that conviction. Make that my only reality. That's the only manifestation that matters. When you see and perceive reality through that identity, that's the only reality, period. That's what she saw. That's how she bent conditions. She even said, as another client on the channel said before, it wasn't perfect. She had days where she was crying, days where she was out of sorts, even in the midst of identifying as that new reality. That's powerful, right? So looking out there and saying, I imagined, assumed, and believed it. Because this was from another client, I think. So this was another comment that I wanted to roll in here. I think one of you mentioned in the channel when I released that video yesterday, that, well, I did imagine and believe and assume it, but it still didn't work out. So you're declaring that it didn't work out. You're declaring that you tried to manifest it, but it didn't work out. Remember, looking out there and saying, I imagined, assumed, and believed it, and then declaring nothing happened, right, or changed, only implies that you're an identity or awareness within which nothing changed. Do you see it? Your identity didn't change. Otherwise, you wouldn't be looking out there and saying that. You wouldn't be seeing that from your new identity. You can't. Do you see it? You are that old identity still. You are still assuming from those old conditions. Nothing's changed within you, so nothing's going to change out there, right? And then another subscriber is saying, so Tom, what's the difference between children believing in things like Santa and the tooth fairy versus actually creating? Interesting, they said they believe there's a difference there. So I want to hit this, right? Because kids obviously believe in it And it doesn't make them real in 3D. In other words, it doesn't make the tooth fairy and Santa Claus real in 3D. But hear what the subscriber is saying. And I get what you're saying. He's saying he wasn't trying to be argumentative or anything like that. He was just curious about it, right? Because he gets it. He knows that he's manifesting his reality. He just had a question. But I just want to show you what you're saying here. You're saying that if you can't see it or perceive it in 3D, manifested, then it's not real. That's what you're saying there. Do you see? We're going to take this apart a little bit more. But you're saying that if you can't see it in 3D, if you can't perceive it, if you can't, then it's not real, right? You're saying the kids obviously believe in it, but it doesn't make it real in 3D. Well, what's real? They believe in it, so it's real to them, right? And not everything. And just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not real. Right? If you believe in God, there are a lot of people that believe in God but don't see God. Right? So I just want to hit this, and I'm going to go over this a little bit more. Remember, everything is real or ultimate reality, or an experience of ultimate reality. Everything is real or an experience of ultimate reality. Not everything, though, is necessarily a manifested physical experience. Do you see it? Not everything is a manifested physical experience. They're having that experience of Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy. They've created that. That is true for them. That is their belief, right? Remember, you're seeing them. You're just assuming what these kids are and what they believe, and that it's not manifested in 3D reality. That's your reality. You're seeing through your assumptions, your lens. Remember, creating, manifesting, and perceiving is an experience of all that is, right? This creating, manifesting, perceiving, what you define as real, is an experience of all that is, ultimate reality. It's that 0.0001% of ultimate reality. That's what creating, manifesting, and perceiving is. It's not just about a physical manifestation, right? It's about seeing the reality the way you want it. That's all an experience of ultimate reality. And that 99.9999% is just as real, if not more real. So it's all a manifestation. It's all reality. Just because you don't see or physically experience something, like Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy or God or thoughts and feelings or assumptions and beliefs, doesn't mean they're not real. You can't see any of these in 3D reality. You can't see Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, okay. God, thoughts and feelings, assumptions, but it doesn't mean they're not real. It simply means they're not seen, but they're still unseen manifestations or ideas within the awareness. Do you see it? Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus are ideas within that awareness. And everything is real. Everything's an experience of reality. That's an experience of reality. So you're just trying to say there's some things that are real and unreal. But it's all reality. They're all ideas. You see it? So this is you creating that idea, right? So when children believe, and this is the words that you were using, you use mythical beings. When children believe in mythical beings as real, and remember, you even use that word. So you just believe that they're not real, period. And you believe that children believe in mythical beings that are not real. So that's the reality you create. You create a reality where there are children that believe in mythical beings that are not real. That's all you're creating there. There's no reality to what you're saying. There's no actual reality. That's your experience of reality. Right? Do you see it? That doesn't make it reality. That's your experience of reality. So when children believe in mythical beings as real, they create, manifest, and perceive that as a real experience. That is a real experience for them. They do believe, and they are real to them. Right? That Santa and the Tooth Fairy are real, but they can't see them. But their experience that it's real to them. Just because it's not real to you, that's your judgment, that's your assumptions. That's your reality. Do you see it? But your reality that you're creating is that children believe in mythical beings that are not real. You're the one, that's your reality that you're creating. They believe they're real. You believe they're not. Remember, you create your reality, they create theirs. Right? And despite their belief, they don't actually create them in 3D. That's what you believe. That's your reality, and you will never see beyond those assumptions. You'll never see the Tooth Fairy. You'll never see Santa Claus. You'll never believe in that. Because you can't see beyond those assumptions. That children believe in some mythical figures that never manifest in 3D. That's always going to be your reality. They'll never manifest in 3D. Children will always believe in them, and they'll never manifest, and that will be your experience over and over again because those are your assumptions. Do you see this, right? You will never know because you create your reality and they create theirs. Do you see it? I understand. And then you say, I understand for them it seems Santa and other mythical beings are real. But it doesn't create Santa Claus in 3D. Just a belief in Santa Claus being real. But that's in your world. That's your reality. That's not theirs. Those are your assumptions. Those are your understandings. Those are your conclusions. That's only your reality. Right? It doesn't make Santa Claus real in your reality. You'll never see Santa Claus. But it's not in theirs. And just because it's not manifested doesn't mean it's not real for them. Not everything that's real is manifested. Because it's all reality. It's all real. I just want to hit that. So what are the takeaways today? This was a big one, right? From this client that I haven't heard from for months, to her bending time, linear time and reality. But how? By beginning and ending in the end. By staying in that absolute conviction that I am that I am. Not by saying I am that I am and then looking out and say, nothing changed. Tom, I tried it, but it's not working. You're not that I am. You're not that identity. You stay in it. You look at all conditions as unfolding to that. You look at everything as from that new perspective, right? Your experience of reality is what you imagine, assume, and believe it to be. Creating, manifesting, and perceiving reality is really about choosing what part of all it is, ultimate reality, you want to experience. What part, that 0.0001% of the seen manifested reality versus the 99.9999% of the unseen. Your identity, who and what you imagine and assume yourself to be, is your reality, is your experience of ultimate reality. So for you to look out and then to make assumptions about what someone else is seeing, it doesn't make any sense. They create their reality. You're only creating a reality of what you believe they're creating or seeing. You see it? So it's not about what is real versus unreal. It's all real, or it's all reality. Right? The real question, if you're going to make a distinction, it's all potential, all that is, all the potential, all that beingness, all that infinite potential. That's all real versus your manifested experience of that potential. In all ways, physical manifestation or just inner manifestation of that potential. That's the only distinction. Remember, you make linear time and the changing forms irrelevant by going to the end, beginning at the end, and ending at the end, and making the end your only reality. I am who I desire to be. I am who I assume myself to be. I am who I imagine myself to be, in staying there no matter what. Very powerful. Manifested by making linear time and changing 3D conditions irrelevant. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting on the videos. Thank you for being part of our Facebook group, the ambassadors, the Be Something Wonderful ambassadors, at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful, for joining our Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin, and also our membership channel that we released a video about a week and a half ago now. There'll be another one coming. Also, there's a live stream this month, exclusively to be aired, broadcast on the membership channel, September 24th, 2023 at 9 a.m. in the morning, Pacific Coast Standard Time. I'm going to be answering your questions that you are sending to me at info@besomethingwonderful.com. There are 4 other live streams already available on the channel that you can view. The last one went about 50 minutes. We hope to have another great one this month. Join us, guys. If you've joined us, thank you for joining. If you haven't, check it out. There's a link below. Creators with great love, with great light and infinite gratitude, this is Tom with the Be Something Wonderful Studios in Las Vegas. Until next time, we'll see you soon.